Guys, apologize for the wait. I was out on the field a little longer than anticipated. But first off, just starting with the group as a whole, really appreciate the way that the group's been working. I think we're led by our senior leadership, starting with Jacob Gill, senior that's playing really well for us, playing his best level of football, which is what we need from our older guys. And then you go down the line, Seth Anderson, Sam Phillips, Kaden Wetjen. That group has really helped hold a standard to what we're looking for in the room and appreciate what they're doing. And then some of our younger guys, look at guys like Dayton, Dayton Howard, who's starting to step up and play a little bit more and gaining confidence in what he's doing. And then KJ Parker's another young guy who we're excited about, and the more reps that he gets, the better he's going to continue to improve. So excited about the group, appreciate the way that they've been working to this point. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Start with Tom.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well.
Appreciate that. You too.
Wanted to ask you about KJ and his development. He really flashed in the spring, I thought, and he's had some drops during the season. How are you kind of bringing him along at this point?
Really pleased with KJ. He's a young guy that really, for the first time last spring, started getting reps within our system. He's a guy that flashed last year throughout scouts and was making plays against our defense. And then once you get into our system, obviously you're not looking at a card anymore. There's a lot more detail within it. And so he had a lot of progression in the springtime and carried that over to fall camp. And I think what he's getting comfortable with is transitioning what he's doing in practice and then being able to go out there and do it in front of 70,000 people and on a week-to-week basis. And that's something that with each game rep that he gets, he gains more comfort. Love the way he plays the game. He's got great energy. He's unbelievably competitive, and we're looking for him to continue to grow each week.
Mitch.
Morning, Coach.
How's it going?
Good, man. What was the expectation for Gill coming in last year? I mean, did you expect him to be on and off the field, to be your leading receiver last year, to be the leader that he's been in that room? And did you see on tape coming in, or did you figure it out once he was on campus that he was a hell of a run blocker too? I mean, he had another seal on that jet Friday for TJ that 185-pound guys aren't expected to do that a whole lot, but he's so adept at it.
I think that's a testament to Jacob. He got here last summer, and when we brought him in, had some sense of what we were getting from a receiver standpoint. He had some tape from Northwestern that we were able to look at, but where we were pleasantly surprised was just the way that he went about his business. He was an unbelievable worker from day one. That's really where he started to establish himself throughout fall camp. He was a guy that's extremely detailed, and he goes hard every single play. There's no plays that he takes off, and that was something that really got him into that starting role last fall. Was it showed up in practice. Every day in fall camp, he was making plays in the throw game. He was digging out safeties in the run game. Him and Castro were going at it every play, and you respect that and you appreciate that, because within this offense, if you're not willing to block, that's a huge part of our job, and it sets up everything else that we do with the play pass and certain things within our system. And so it's a key role, and he embraced it. He set the standard for the room. We go through, and each week we talk about who's getting a spring block, who's getting that second level block, third level block, that all of a sudden that back makes the cut back, and it goes, instead of going for 10, it goes for 50. And he bought into that. And like I said, it's a testament to him. He's been a worker for us. I think he's really grown in a leadership role throughout this season and over the summertime, setting a standard. We set a standard in the room and challenge guys to hold each other accountable to it. And he's certainly done that, gone above and beyond. And so pleased to have him in the room. And every week he brings it.
Madison.
Hey, Coach, it's great to meet you. I wanted to ask a little bit about how you've seen this receiver room really develop a trust with Gronowski, considering how limited he was in the spring, and how you've seen this receiver group really adjust to his playing capabilities and how you've seen their confidence grow with him at the helm now.
I think it grows each week. That's one thing about when you have a quarterback and receiver group, all right, that work together. It's such an important piece to it, because there's certain ways, all right, that how are we coming out of routes, all right, how do we develop the route, what's the timing within, there's got to be great communication, great trust. And ever since Mark stepped into that huddle starting fall camp, they've been working towards that. They work at it during practice, they work at it after practice, they watch film together, and you're constantly trying to build that trust to make sure that we're where we need to be when we need to be there, and that he's seeing those pictures clean, understanding, okay, this is how this guy comes out of this break. This is this guy's strength. And when you have that, that part makes a passing game go. And I've really enjoyed watching that group work together. Like I said, whether it's pre-practice, in practice, post-practice, off the field in meetings, I think they got a great chemistry, and I think they have a lot of respect for each other. They're all trying to grow and continue to improve each week. And right now, there's a great relationship between those two rooms.
Tyler.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I knew, there's been a handful of drops and Kirk, a little while back said lightheartedly kind of obviously that's not something you guys teach, but what has been your diagnosis as to why that's happened and maybe what, you're doing to address that moving forward?
Yeah, I think obviously coach is right in saying that nobody in the group wakes up on Saturday morning getting ready for a game and saying, man, I can't wait to go drop a ball in front of 70,000 people. That's not their thought process. But I think when you look at it, the first thing for me, the most important thing, whether we're talking about football and life, that I address to the guys is you can't instill panic. There can't be any panic within it, right? And because when there's panic, then with that comes doubt and fear. And that's what I don't want the guys playing. I don't want them playing afraid to drop the ball, right? Fighting the ball. And once you get through those, then it's okay, let's address the problem. Let's look at the tape and see, okay, what are the issues? And I think there's different layers to that. You talk about a young guy like KJ. Well, KJ's first experience, all right, playing in a game, playing in front of people, that wasn't reflective of what KJ is week to week in practice. But now, okay, you start rushing things, right? You start taking your eyes off the ball and you're trying to do too much because you're trying to get that catch. And now all of a sudden you're looking to see what tackle you're going to break as opposed to doing first things first, right? And so that's one component of it, is just focusing our eyes through the catch, not trying to do too much, making sure that we secure it. And then once you secure it, now become a playmaker. And that's just a focus thing. And I think that's one side of it. The other side of it, when you go back through and watch it, of the few that we've had, a lot of times, right, what happens is guys feel comfortable catching the ball right here, right? And that's not always going to be the case, right? There's going to be a ball that's here. There's going to be a ball that's at our hip. And at times we're trying to elevate for a ball to get that catch. We're trying to fall for a ball to get a low catch, right? Try and make it to where it's in this vicinity. And when you do that, when you elevate or drop, it changes the trajectory of the ball, right? And your eyes drift on you. And I told the guys a couple weeks ago, it's like if you're out shooting clay pigeons and you're jumping up and down, you're not going to be very accurate with those shots, right? And so being able to track that ball and being able to catch that ball here and not necessarily elevate for a ball that we don't have to elevate for, not having to fall to the ground for a ball we don't have to fall to the ground, being able to flip our hands and run through a catch, right? Those are things that we're working, and we work it in pre-practice, we work it during practice, and then we have a circuit that we do every single day after practice. And so they're being really diligent about what they're doing. They're going to continue to improve, and certainly, like I said, don't want to instill any panic on it, because I don't want them playing with doubt. I want them playing fast and trusting their skills, trusting the development that we're doing day to day, and continuing to improve each week, and obviously minimize those as the week goes on.
David.
Hey, John, appreciate the time.
Yep.
Obviously, it probably felt good to see kind of one of the more difficult catches Dayton Howard made last week against Rutgers, probably the biggest play in the game. He's physically, I think, built different than anybody else in that room. I guess, how have you kind of seen him progress, whether it be from the start of fall camp to now, and kind of where do you see him needing to take the next steps to maybe continue to be more a part of the downfield game specifically?
Yeah, Dayton's a guy who, one thing I respect about him a ton is he's an ultimate competitor. I often reflect back on last year versus Michigan State, and he wasn't necessarily playing a lot in that game, wasn't playing at all in the first half. And we're walking into the locker room at halftime, and I can see his frustration. And you never know, right? When we're going through that, okay, is there frustration because you're not in the game? What's the frustration stem around? And so I grabbed him. I just happened to be walking with him, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? Like, you're pretty fired up right now. And his whole thing was, I know we can beat these guys. Like, I know we can get them. I know it was all about the team, right? And there was no selfish talk, no selfish acts. And that's one thing about Dayton, is he goes about his business from the time that I was fortunate enough to get this job being with him, he's probably one of the ones that has matured the most, all right, in that room. And whether it's on the field, off the field, he is very dialed in to what he's doing. And I think that showed up because it doesn't just happen in the game, right? And that's what I tell the guys. Like if we think we're going to get better from Saturday to Saturday, you're missing so much opportunity within the process. All right, what you can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from a prep standpoint, Friday when we have a fast Friday. There's so many areas that you can continue to improve. And he's one of the guys that truly respects that and appreciates the opportunity that we have in practice to improve. And it showed up. He had, there's a couple 2-minute drills that we've had in the last couple weeks where the quarterbacks give him a one-on-one fade opportunity. He's going up and attacking the ball, and that gains trust. Now, when those guys see him there, right, they say, okay, I know that guy's going to win a one-on-one. When I put that ball in the air, nothing bad's going to happen. And he that's something that he's shown in practice. He obviously took a big step on Friday night, and hopefully that helps him gain some confidence. And moving forward, anticipate him to play. 2 weeks ago, wanted to get him more in the fold, more in the rotation. Obviously, on Friday night when Seth went down with the high ankle sprain, that kind of put him into an even bigger role, and I thought he responded really well.
Chad.
Hey, John. Where do you see the biggest opportunity, or where do you see opportunity in the passing game this week against a tough Indiana defense?
I think so. The big thing going against this group is what you see on tape is they're very disciplined, and the way that they play their defense, right? They play a lot of zone coverage. They don't allow a lot of teams to take the top off, right? And so the stress of the week, the emphasis of the week is when you do get those opportunities, whether it's underneath, intermediate, all right, however we decide to attack them, the biggest thing is the transition after the catch. Doing the first things first, securing that football, but every little yard matters. And can you take a 6-yard gain and make it an 8 or 9-yard gain? Can you make it a 10-yard gain? Because when you go against a team like this, very similar to times in my past when I had gone against Iowa's defense, right? You have to be disciplined. You have to take what they give you, but you have to keep getting kicks at the can. And when you can take those 6-yard gains and turn those into a first down, now you have 3 more opportunities and you're able to sustain those drives better. And so I think that's the big area in the passing game is taking when they do give us the shots down the field, all right, getting our depth, making sure we're at the right place at the right time. But then when it is the underneath stuff and we're playing discipline, what can you do with that? All right, when it's a 6-yard catch, what can you do with that to make sure that we're turning those into bigger gains? And that's been an emphasis all week is just that transition, like it is every year, but most importantly this week.
Got time for a few more. We'll start with Elliot.
Hey, John. I wanted to ask about Kaden Wetjen. I know he's known for his ability to return the football, but he had a couple pretty important catches against Rutgers the other night. I guess there was that 3rd and 6. I think he had like a 15-yard gain. Was that more or less your vision for him to impact the game in that way as an option for Gronowski in those situations where he can go make a play? I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess what are you seeing from Kaden?
So Kaden, like you mentioned, he's super dynamic in the return game. Adds tons of value to our special teams units. But one thing where we wanted him to take the next step, obviously this year, is within the offense and being able to take some of that dynamic playmaking ability and us be able to get him and use him offensively to help us. And what comes with that is you got to know what the player's strengths are. And so with him, putting him in situations, right? Trying to put him in situations where he can have success. And we obviously know about his speed. We know what he can do to the top of the coverage, but then he's also got short area quickness. And so the route that you're mentioning, that was just a little choice route and giving him a 2-way go. And he made a good decision off of it. He's a good decision maker within those types of routes. And obviously when you can get the ball in his hands, there's big play opportunity. And so as a staff, I think that's one thing Tim does a great job of is when we do put in a plan, trying to make sure, all right, who do we have in those positions? And then is that the best guy for that particular play? And Caden's a great example of that, where we try to week in, week out, see, okay, what can we do to get the ball in his hands so that he can make a positive impact on our offense?
Mitch.
I'm going to double up here real quick. If you could just talk a little bit about what you've seen from Terrence Smith so far. And then you've got a kid in Alex Eichmann who we haven't seen run a whole lot of routes, but he's carved out a special teams role. He's a 6'2", 210 kid who's got a ton of experience in the program. I imagine that's quite a quite a great tool to have, whether it's running scout or just having them in the room. If you could talk about both those guys.
Yeah, so starting out with T's a guy got here, later in the summertime, was getting acclimated to the summer conditioning, taking a class, and right now for him, he's figuring out time management, figuring out schedule, figuring out college, right? Figuring out life a little bit, and so helping him, guiding him through that. Just understand, okay, where to be, when to be there. When it gets on the football field, love what he's doing. We had him out there today. He's running down on scout kickoff and challenging him to open up and run and make a play and put positive things on tape and that competitive nature, because you see that come out in him from his high school tape. Obviously, he's a big threat when he's in one-on-one matchup. And so for him, it's continuing to grow. He has to value every single time he's in the weight room this fall. He's obviously going to redshirt. He needs to take advantage going against our defense, because those reps are invaluable when you get to go against our defense, and then continuing to take care of business off the field. And that's a daily process of just continuing to understand time management. And so really pleased with where he's at right now and excited for him to have a big fall, not necessarily impacting us directly, but it can be a big fall for him and his growth. And then you go to a guy like Alex Eichmann. So he's a guy for me that during fall camp, we have 3 different positions depending on if we're in 11 or 12, X, F, Z. And he's a guy that knows it all. And that for a coach is a good thing, because when somebody does go down, you have somebody that you can trust to be able to go in there and do it. And we talk about in our room all the time, we have to have more value on special teams. Our group needs to show up more on special teams. We should have more guys in the mix there. And he's a guy that sets the standard of that. He's been, 2-3 phase starter, competes, and really enjoy having him in the room. He's a guy that might not be getting as much playing time offensively, but certainly helps maintain the standard and hold guys accountable for what we're looking for.
Last one with Tyler.
John, do you have a firm timetable for Reese being able to come back at this point? And could you also maybe just touch on how you've seen him kind of, deal with that setback and, stay engaged and things of that nature?
Yeah, we don't have a firm timetable right now. I know he's progressing each day, and Reese is a guy that when the situation happened, was devastated for him, because he's a guy that in the room does everything right on the field, does everything right off the field. What you ask of him, he works his butt off. And so when you see a guy go through that, it's very hurtful, especially when, as a coach, right, there's so much more to just the game. There's relationships that you have with the guys. And so for that was a tough day for him. But the way that he's responded, I think it helps, having gone through it a year ago, as painful as it was for him to have another setback, just a similar type of injury, knowing, okay, what it feels like when I feel good, when I don't feel good. I think that's helped him through his recovery. And he's been a great leader for us. He makes every trip. He's on the sidelines. And for being a young guy, the presence that he brings is huge for our room. And that part I appreciate about him a ton, and can't wait to get him back in the fold.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Thank you.